It may be hard to believe that this is our new favorite place to paddle in Florida, but pretty soon you'll see why. With its miles of paddling on crystal clear waters among jumping fish and even some otters, Ichetucknee Springs is a true paddler's paradise. But our day in paradise came with plenty of troubles, including a gator encounter, a wipeout, and a completely destroyed paddleboard. So stick around to see why even after all of that, this Florida paddle was still our absolute favorite and just might become yours as well. Located in north central Florida, approximately 40 miles northwest of Gainesville, Ichetucknee Springs State Park is one of the area's most popular outdoor destinations. We're here at like 8:15 on a Saturday, and there's already a line on the highway.
I think we got up early.
I know. The massive 2,200-acre park includes 8 major springs and a protected 3.5-mile stretch of the spring-fed Ichetucknee River. This line is moving pretty slow to get into the park.
We finally got on the property at least.
At around 45 minutes after arriving at the park, we finally made it to the ticket booth. Here we paid a $5 entrance fee and learned about some park residents that we couldn't wait to see.
Our biologist saw 15 otters last week, so keep an eye out.
Oh,
Will
so
do.
cool.
Thank you.
We arrived at the parking lot just a few minutes after 9, where we were relieved to find plenty of parking still available and short lines at the reservation and waiver stand. Now, visiting Ichetucknee State Park can be very confusing because it has a north entrance and a south entrance, but whether you're coming here for tubing or paddling, I'd say most people end up at the south entrance, parking here at the landing area. Now, if you're here for tubing, this is going to be the area where you can rent your tubes, get your tram tickets. From there, you can walk or take a tram up to the midpoint launch. From there, you can float down the river, back to the landing, or all the way to the south takeout, and then you can take the tram back to the parking area here. Now, the north 1.5 miles is reserved for paddlers, and that is a recent change, which we will talk about more a little bit later.
So while the majority of the people who come to this park do come here to tube, we have come here today to paddle, and the most popular paddling option is going to be to come here to the south entrance and rent a paddle craft at the general store. From there you can take a shuttle up to the north entrance, and from there you can basically just float down the river because you are going with the current, and it should be a really easy and enjoyable experience. But if you're a bit more experienced of a paddler, or are looking to get some more exercise, or just want to save some money, there's another great option, which is the option that we're taking today, and that is to bring your own paddle craft and to launch it at Dampier's Landing.
So if you are here parking at the south area, you can paddle upstream all the way to the headstream and float back down, or you can pay for a shuttle, which will take you to the north end with your craft and float back down as well.
Now, for those of you who are visiting the park primarily to enjoy the springs, either by swimming in the head spring or by snorkeling or scuba diving in the blue hole, you will want to visit the north entrance. Now, for those paddlers who do make the entire round trip paddle, they do estimate that that will take around 4 or 5 hours. And since we plan on doing a lot of filming along the way, it's probably going to take us quite a bit longer, so we better get going.
We are visiting on a Saturday in July. It's going to be a sunny day, and I think the high of like 93 degrees. So this place is going to be packed. You might be able to see behind me here, the lines for everything are getting really long. So if you can reserve your tubes or your tram online ahead of time, we would recommend that. But also know that if you don't get here early enough to get in the park, that's not going to matter. Because if the park reaches capacity, they're not going to let you in. So you'll want to make sure to get here early. One more thing, they do not allow any food or anything disposable on the river. So we are going to have a Cliff Bar and also this other bar before we go, and I hope they'll tide us over until we get back. How long of a walk is this?
Quarter mile.
Quarter mile. All right, let's go. So this is the trail to and from the midpoint, but we are launching from Dampier's Landing, so we're gonna keep going forward. This is probably the longest we've had to carry these boards yet, right?
Definitely, but it's still not that bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Oh, there's one of those giant spiders over there, but they are not on our trail.
All right, let's do this.
Here we go.
So as you can see, almost everyone that's putting in on their tubes is going that way downstream, but we are going to be paddling that way upstream.
We are going to have to paddle through the tubes for a little bit before we get to the northern part of the river. Now these kayakers, looks like they're probably doing what we're doing, starting here and paddling north through the tubers to the north end.
It's around 11:30 right now, and we have to be back by around 4:45, which means we have just over 5 hours to make this 6-mile round trip paddle. So we'll see if we can do it.
This river was actually named the best place to tube in Florida, I think by the Travel Channel. And in the summer, some days this river can be shoulder to shoulder with tubes. The north 3.5 miles of the river includes 8 major springs and is protected. No motorized vessels are allowed on the river, so you'll only find tubers and paddlers. There have been some recent changes here in 2023. Tubers used to be able to tube along a 3-mile stretch of the river, but now it's just the lower 1.5-mile stretch. They have made this change in order to protect the ecosystem of the area that's called the Upper Ichetucknee. In that area, there's over 20 different species of submerged vegetation. When the pandemic happened and there was a significant decrease in tube activity, they were seeing the vegetation return. Due to this, the Florida Park Service converted access to the Upper Ichetucknee to paddlecraft only. While tubers still have a great stretch of the river to tube on along Lower Ichetucknee, the lack of tubers on the Upper Ichetucknee has resulted in a pretty amazing paddle experience. There is an otter right over there. I don't know if you can see it. He's on that log, but you're probably not going to be able to see him in this footage. It's pretty cute though. Oh, there's the otter. Oh, there's 2 of them. Hi. Oh my gosh, so cute. I know when we entered the park today, the park ranger said that the ecologist or biologist or something saw a whole bunch of them. They keep peeking up to say hi. They're so adorable. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy I saw otters. I hope that Skylar saw them too. He is way far ahead of me.
So we made it to the midpoint, which is the farthest tubers can go. I got a little bit ahead of Jamie, so I decided to just hang out here right past where the tubers get in. And as you can see, only kayaks and paddleboards this way.
All right, I can see the midpoint launch, which means once we pass that, it will be much less busy.
Well, hello. What happened to booking it upstream? Well, it's going to be a million times easier now.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you're paddling against the stream, but it's all the tubers that really slow you down.
Right, because you end up having to kind of like zigzag back and forth
Yeah.
across.
And sometimes you have to completely stop because you got
Yes.
people coming right at you, and then the current starts taking you the opposite direction.
Yep. So look at the difference. This is the north part of the river, and then look at that, the south. Excited to explore the less busy half of the Ichetucknee River, we began making our way northward through the increasingly clear waters. Even though we knew that the north half of the river would be far less busy than the south half, we were still pretty amazed at just how little traffic we found on the water, especially for a hot Saturday in July. Skylar did spot the eyes of a gator. You're probably not going to be able to see it in this footage, but you can just see his eyes and a bit of his snout. Although the gator was small, we decided to keep plenty of distance as our boards were inflatable and we knew Mom likely wasn't too far away. In addition to the gator and otters, we also saw by far the most turtles we'd ever seen on a paddle. All these turtles just chilling out. We also spotted countless fish in the crystal clear waters, including alligator gar and these jumping mullet.
I just saw 2 in the last 20 seconds.
I got it! There was an area where there was like hundreds of fish were under Skylar's board and he could feel them jumping around. I'd say so far we are enjoying the paddle. It is a bit of work paddling upstream, especially on a paddleboard. Like if you had a kayak and had a paddle on both ends, or if you had 2 people, I think it would go a lot faster. If you're just wanting to experience this beautiful river in a kind of a relaxing way, then it's probably worth paying whatever it is they charge to do the shuttle to the north.
Nah.
Or unless you're
better.
this guy and just wants a challenge. While the upstream paddle was quite hot and challenging, it was also extremely enjoyable, and we knew it would be even more enjoyable when we were floating our way back downstream. We can hear people to the right. We think that's probably the Blue Hole area. We might make it there later today after the paddle, we'll see. Now only about a quarter mile from the head spring, the hard part of the paddle was coming to an end, and the river was looking even more beautiful than ever. Oh my gosh, we've made it! Oh, that was a tough paddle. All right.
Made it.
You gonna go find something to drink?
Yeah.
So we made it to the North End launch. We started way down here at Dampier's Landing. We had to battle through all the tubers through this area, and then we got to enjoy this whole section of the river with just other paddlers. And I'm not gonna lie though, it was tough. We had to battle the current. We also had to experience this heat. So it was pretty exhausting. I'm glad we're here. I think it took us about 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Even though it was a lot of work, it was really enjoyable. We saw so much wildlife. I'm not even exaggerating when I say we saw over 1,000 fish, over 100 turtles. Jamie even saw 3 otters, and I'm guessing since we'll be able to relax a lot more when we're going with the current, we'll spot even more animals on the way back.
But before we'd make our way back down the river, we'd need some food and drinks. And fortunately for us, we found a food truck just a short walk from the North Launch.
All right, guys, so while Jamie waited at the food truck to get some food and drinks for us, we decided that I would run down to the main springs just to get some footage of what it looks like down there. So I started going down the path that I thought led to the main springs. For a while, I could even see the springs from the path, but after a while, I realized that the sounds of all the people yelling were getting quieter and that I was actually going down the path to the blue hole. So I decided to turn around, and now I'm walking back to Jamie. Hopefully we'll still get to show you the main springs later, but I'm not sure. So even though I wasted about 20 minutes walking halfway down the wrong path and back, Jamie is still in line at the food truck. I'm gonna run down to the actual head springs and see if I can show it to you and get back by the time Jamie has food. All right, guys, so that's the food truck right down there, and that is the main spring where I was trying to get to. It's literally like a 2-minute walk. Instead, I walked 10 minutes down the path to the blue hole. Now, the blue hole is really cool. We went there a few years ago, but we don't have enough energy left or enough time to walk all the way there and back, so I'm gonna go show you the main spring. So we actually weren't even able to get in the water for the entire last 1.5 miles or so of that paddle, so these springs are gonna feel amazing. It is really cold, but it feels really good.
As Skylar cooled off in the head spring, I was finally ordering our food and drinks, which we'd have to down quickly to make it back to our boards before the landing closed. So it took a long time, but we got corn dog, fries, pretzel. Man, how happy are you to have a corn dog 2 days in a row?
And this was actually fried and not microwaved,
Yeah.
but it also cost twice as much, so.
And took way longer.
True. I think I'd rather just have the $3 microwave one that was ready in like 2 minutes.
All right, so bad news, guys. We came back to paddle back to the south end, and Skylar's board was totally deflated. It looks like there was a hole in it. Oh, R.I.P. palm tree paddleboard.
It'll be fun to see if we can get back on one board.
I know, come on, we gotta get going. So we unsuccessfully tried to both get on that paddleboard. It just wasn't stable enough for both of us and all the electronics. So thankfully there was a shuttle that was getting ready to take off. They're gonna take me to the south end. Skylar is taking the other board and he is going to book it and hopefully we will meet up very soon. I am really bummed that I'm not going to be able to experience floating back on the north end of the river because it is very peaceful, very gorgeous, but I also know that Skylar will enjoy it by himself a lot better than I would. So hopefully he has a good time and gets some really good footage.
All right, guys, I just heard from Jamie. She is able to get on the shuttle, so I have an hour and a half to make it 3.25 miles back to the landing. So time to get going.
Bye.
See you later.
Have fun.
I will. So I don't think getting back in an hour and 45 minutes is going to be a problem at all because I only got 2 3/4 miles to go, which means I have to only paddle at a little under 2 miles per hour. And I think the current alone takes you 2 miles per hour. So I could literally just float down this river and probably make it in time, but I am paddling at a pretty good pace right now as well. So honestly, I might be able to do this whole thing in like a half hour. All right, guys, that was not expected. One of the dangers of trying to really book it back on a paddleboard is that your fin does go underwater a ways, and sometimes you can't tell how close the stumps underwater are to the surface. So you can go over one of those stumps, it might look like it's a foot under the water, but it's really just under the surface. So if you hit one of those with your fin, it will result in a very abrupt stop, and it will also result in you being ejected from your paddleboard, which is what just happened there. But actually, it felt kind of good to get in the water again. I know you're not supposed to get in the water in this river, but I promise, guys, it was not intentional.
All right, so earlier I don't think we did a good job of explaining what happened. We arrived back at our boards and found one of them to be completely deflated. At first we thought that somebody maybe had just let the air out of one of them, but then we saw that there was a giant hole where one of the seams was. It was completely blown out. And we had to think kind of fast to figure out how I was gonna get back to the parking lot area, because we are pretty far from where we parked. And we also had to get Skylar going on the other paddleboard because the other landing closes at 3:45. So hopefully he will make it there before it closes. Looking back on the situation though, we can't really blame anybody but ourselves. It is so hot. The heat index is through the roof. We should have taken a little bit of extra time to make sure that those boards were in a shaded area at least before we left them for a while. I don't think we were expecting to be gone as long as we were. The line to get the food and the drinks was insane. It wasn't long, but it just took a very, very long time. So looking back, we do things a little bit differently, but we're gonna make it work.
I'm not gonna lie, guys, this is so peaceful just floating down this river. There's just fish swimming everywhere. It's so clear.
So the shuttle is a bus and it has a trailer on the back for canoes, kayaks, and paddleboards.
There is no one else out here. I wish Jamie could be joining me for this. This is quite the experience.
So I am waiting for them to unload all of these kayaks, canoes, and paddleboards, and once that happens, then we should be on our way to the south end. But by now, Skylar is hopefully well on his way to Dampier's Landing. As of now, he's got 1 hour to make it on time.
So there's definitely more of a breeze paddling to the head spring than there is now. That was a good thing paddling there because it did help keep us cooler, but I'm really enjoying that there isn't much of a breeze now actually, because it's resulting in much clearer and calmer water.
At least there's air conditioning in here.
It's just amazing how everywhere you look, you can see fish pretty much at all times. And a good portion of the time you can see a turtle as well. Not gonna lie though, guys, I am a little bit nervous every time I go over an underwater log now, because I'm just scared that it's closer to the surface than it appears and my fin's gonna catch it and I'm gonna take an unplanned dive into the water again. I also really can't wait to show Jamie that footage of me falling off my board. She's definitely gonna get a kick out of it. So I've been paddling probably 20 minutes or so, and I honestly think I've already made it about halfway back. It's been pretty relaxing, even though I've been paddling pretty hard. Going with the current, you just move so quickly. I've only fallen in once. Hopefully there's no other surprise trips into the water, but I do wish Jamie could join me on this one. I think she really would have enjoyed it. She probably is enjoying the shuttle back though. I know she was getting tired, but I do really think she would have enjoyed this as well.
Not sure if anybody will be joining me or not. Might be just me.
Oh, otters. 3 otters. I wonder if those are the 3 otters that Jamie saw. Hey guys. I don't know if making noise makes them more likely to stick around or less. They might not be real personable otters. Oh man, I'm just glad I was able to get that on video. At least I hope so. Now, even with a bit of a headwind, I don't think I'm gonna have a problem making it back on time, but if I see more otters, I might, because I definitely am gonna have to stop every single time I see otters. Oh, going over logs, getting nervous again. Thankfully, anything that's not waterproof, Jamie has, other than my phone, but I have my phone in a dry bag down here. All right, we got a fork in the river up here. Which way do we take, guys? I think we came through the right side, and there's a pretty strong current through there, which means going back, there should be a pretty strong current pushing me. Also, the left side just looks prettier, so let's go this way. So I'm just trying to look down, just so you guys can see what I see when I look down, and I'm hoping you can see that there are fish everywhere. Where's your friends, turtle? All right, guys, this is a great sign. I already see the midpoint landing up ahead, meaning that I've already paddled 1.5 miles and only have 3/4 of a mile to go. And I think I probably still have about 45 minutes or so to do it in, so I could definitely just float the rest of the way back if I wanted to, but Jamie may already be there waiting for me, so I better keep paddling.
Michael just dropped me off at the south entrance parking lot, and he absolutely saved me. If you are visiting Ichetucknee and use their transportation service and see Michael, tell him thank you from me, because there is not even a trail that you could walk from the north entrance to the south entrance. You literally have to get in your car, leave the park, and re-enter it. Thank you again, Michael. Now, instead of just hanging out at the car in the parking lot, I am walking back down to Dampier's Point, so hopefully I can catch Skylar when he gets here.
Well, guys, I can already see the landing ahead. I don't think I've been paddling much more than a half hour. It probably went 3, maybe 4 times faster than the paddle up to the head springs went. Reason number 1, because I was paddling with the current, and reason number 2, I didn't have to zigzag between all of those tubers.
You guys, look who beat me. So Skylar's paddle was faster than my ride back here. I'm glad that he made it and I didn't have to worry about him.
I was just getting ready to call you.
How was it?
It was good. It was so easy.
Hey, why are you so wet?
I fell in.
You fell in? I could tell right away that something happened because you were all wet.
Well, remember that log that guy hit and fell in?
Yes.
I hit it going probably 10 miles per hour.
Were you wearing the GoPro on your head then too?
Oh, yeah.
Did you watch the footage yet?
No. No, it's gonna be funny as hell though.
After a day of paddling the Ichetucknee, you're probably going to be exhausted, hungry, and thirsty. And we found some great spots to address all of those just 20 minutes away in High Springs. We found High Springs downtown to be charming and full of character, and home to a coffee shop you won't want to miss. Named after the old Scots term for cozy, we found the interior of Colsey Coffee to be just that. And while these fantastic looking baked goods surely brought many to Colsey, we were here for the coffee, and they sure had a lot to offer. The drink that caught my eye was their limited time special Barbie drink, and I could not wait to try it. If you've been enjoying this video and would like to join us for more Florida outdoor adventures, be sure to subscribe to our channel and turn the notifications on. So Skylar got their Salty Jack latte, which is like a smoky bourbon vanilla syrup. So this is our first time visiting Colsey, and we were really impressed with how many homemade syrups that they offered. I think there were around 10. Now, while my Barbie themed latte was definitely the prettiest latte, Skylar and I both agreed that the Salty Jack tasted the best. And that's a flavor that we haven't seen at any other coffee shop. I think it was a smoked bourbon vanilla flavor, and if you're ever in the High Springs area, we'd recommend stopping by to try one. Our next High Springs food and drink spot takes us just 1 block away, where you'll find the Great Outdoors restaurant located within an old 2-story opera house. We were immediately impressed with the restaurant's atmosphere, which had a rustic lodge feel that you don't find a whole lot of in Florida. The menu was extensive, with a variety of steaks, pastas, seafood, burgers, salads, and even some vegan options. The drink selection was impressive as well, with several specialty cocktails available from the connected Springhouse Tavern, as well as a decent selection of local beers.
So I got an order of nachos and I had them add the smoked pork because this just seems like the type of place that would do smoked pork really well. They do.
Good decision?
Mm-hmm.
While we both agreed that Skylar's pork-covered nachos were exceptional, I was most excited to try my crispy blackened tofu bowl.
So this dish is way more flavorful than I expected. I really like the curry flavor.
I've never had tofu I've really enjoyed, but Jamie swears this tofu is delicious, so I'm gonna give it a try. It's crispy. No, I like it.
The Great Outdoors does have an impressive outdoor space as well, which often hosts live musicians on the weekends. When it comes to after-dinner delights, I often prefer ice cream, while Skylar almost always prefers beer. Luckily, we found High Springs to offer great options for both at the Florida Creamery and High Springs Brewing Company. We found the ice cream, beers, and live music to be the perfect way to wrap up another day of adventure in the Florida Springs. While both the Gilchrist Blue Springs and Ichetucknee Springs were quite busy in some areas, we were able to find some incredibly relaxing sections as well, even on the weekend. But if you're looking for a nearby spring where you can avoid the crowds altogether, we'd highly recommend nearby Poe Springs, which we briefly visited on a late Sunday morning. Here we found a beautiful park and a gorgeous spring, which even on a weekend had more turtles than people. And while our time at Poe Springs wasn't enough to film an entire video, our time at Gilchrist Blue Springs the day prior sure was. And you can watch that video by clicking here right now. Thanks for watching!